Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining. So some good news out of the automobile world finally, and this is also specifically for people in Virginia, but hopefully will have ramifications in other states as well. And here's the headline. Governor Glenn Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Miyares, here's what they said. Virginia will exit the California electric vehicle mandate at the end of the year. Great news. And I'm just going to read on because this really is quite succinct. It puts it perfectly. Governor Glenn Youngkin today announced the end of the California electric vehicle mandate in Virginia, effective at the end of 2024, when California's current regulations expire. An official opinion from Attorney General Jason Miyares confirms that Virginia is not required to comply with the expansive new mandates adopted by the unelected California Air Resources Board, set to take effect January 1st, 2025. Now, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, is California's version of the EPA, and they have put regulations in place that far exceed the EPA, the federal regulations, and something like 17 other states have adopted those regulations, meaning that because of that, the auto industry basically has to follow the California regulations if they want to sell in those 17 states. So it's kind of by default, the federal regulations. So not a good thing. But let me read on. Once again, Virginia is declaring independence, this time from the misguided electric vehicle mandate imposed by unelected leaders nearly 3,000 miles away from the Commonwealth, said Governor Glenn Youngkin. The idea that government should tell people what kind of car they can or can't purchase is fundamentally wrong. Virginians deserve the freedom to choose which vehicles best fit the needs of their families and businesses. The law is clear, and I am proud to announce Virginians will no longer be forced to live under this out-of-touch policy. So that's the great news. And the reason that Attorney General Jason Miyares and Governor Glenn Youngkin came to this conclusion is that in 2021, the then Virginia General Assembly passed legislation authorizing Virginia to adopt California's Advanced Clean Car Act 1, which is a set of regulations. But the California Air Resources Board recently adopted the Advanced Clean Cars Act 2. And that is set to take effect January 1st, 2025. And that's what would require 100% of new cars sold in model year 2025 to be all-electric vehicles. It also says that by 2026, 35% of those states that have adopted the California policy, 35% of all new cars sold in 2026 must be all-electric. So Under the opinion written by Attorney General Jason Miyares, it confirms that the law as written does not require Virginia to follow the new set of regulations, the Advanced Clean Car Act 2, only the Clean Car Act 1, which expires at the end of this year. So what does that mean? It means at the end of 2024, we revert back to the EPA, the federal standards, and no longer have to follow the onerous California standards. So that is great news. And I just want to read on what would happen if we did adopt the Advanced Clean Cars 2 Act that California is adopting starting in 2025. It says, beginning in model year 2026, as I mentioned, 35% of all new cars sold would have been required to be electric vehicles, moving up to 100% by the 2035 model year. If an auto manufacturer sells a standard automobile out of compliance with California's mandate, they may be required to pay a fine upwards of $20,000 per vehicle. So that's the regulation. Does that seem to be anti-consumer? Yes. Virginia auto consumers and dealers could be forced to bear those costs. Not only would this leave auto dealers with less money to pay staff, offer raises, and grow their businesses, it could force many small auto dealers to permanently close their doors. That's pretty obvious. So again, great news. Thank you, Governor Glenn Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Miyares in Virginia. It's fantastic news. One other thing, the federal regulations have become more onerous in the past couple of years. Again, increased federal regulations, not that the legislature voted on, but that the EPA has imposed on Americans. And that basically mandates that if manufacturers aren't meeting certain CAFE standards, which is the corporate average fuel economy standards, then they're going to be paying huge fines. So they'll have to phase out cars that don't get, 40, 50 miles a gallon, or sell a big enough percentage of EVs that it offsets that. So again, if the November election changes administrations, if another administration is voted in November of 2024, which would start in January 2025, those federal regulations could revert back to the more sensible regulations that were in place beforehand. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And that's about it from here. I just wanted to give you that new bit of news that just came out. If you haven't already done so, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. Those things help a lot. Take care. We'll see you next time.